It's there.
As I ring the bowl as a call to service, as I pour this bowl, open your hearts and minds to receive the love from each other and all of the service will bring to you. Thank you. It's lovely. Well, good morning. Good morning and welcome, members and friends and visitors to the Unitarian Universalists of the Chester River. Welcome to those in the sanctuary as well as those at home. And a special welcome to some of our original loved congregants who have shown up this morning. What a wonderful treat for this last of the traditional Sunday services at UUCR. My name is Annie Lavin, and I'm your service leader this morning. When I begin to prepare for a service, I usually pull up a previous service that I use as a format. Doesn't matter which one, just serendipitously one comes up. It was interesting that when I clicked and one came up this morning, or not this morning, a few days ago, it was from a service back in September 11th, which was the beginning of the traditional services here, and Greg was also our speaker that morning. I'm reading through it and I couldn't believe that 8 months had passed, 39 services, but who's counting? 2 bookends marking the start and the finish of this church year, and so much living in between for us, ups and downs, celebrations and memorials, days of rest, days of challenge, a true testimony to how quickly this journey is passing, this one that we share with each other as we're on the planet at the same time in the same space, but also the journey that is a singular one. Next Sunday begins our informal services in a weekly discussion led by our gifted and interesting congregants, and that would be you. The sign-up sheet is on the whiteboard, and we look forward to having you lead us in a discussion about any topic you want. And being UUs, we will join in and support you quickly. The theme for this morning's service is Vacations or Pilgrimage. So appropriate as we transfer into summer months. It's vacation time, and Reverend Greg Shute, our longtime friend and speaker today, will be asking us to consider where we're off to and why. Are we going away or toward? And are we hoping to receive the experiences that will be both familiar and profound that lie in wait? And we look forward to this. Our musician this morning, our accompanist, is Michael Casey, who always brings so much to our services, and we are grateful for that. Gratitude to our greeters, coffee host, tech team, all of you who lend your talents to the service. And now a couple announcements. You know about signing up on the whiteboard, that's one. The other one is the National Music Festival is coming to town June 4th to the 17th. And we are so fortunate here at UUCR because on 3 separate dates at lunchtime, 12:30, they will be in the sanctuary. One will be a piano recital and the other 2 will be chamber music. So you'll be close to them and the acoustics are wonderful and people from the outside will be coming as well. It's advertised in all the papers. So the dates, and you can look them up in our reflections, but I'll just throw them out now. June 9th, 14th, and 15th at 12:30, right here. Let's see if this is. Oh, and one last one that just got in under the wire. We're having our directory come out again. It'll be in the fall, so we need your picture. I know that's painful. You can either, when Dave Beeler is here, he often takes them. He was here last week. Or you can find a good one of your own and just mail it to him, and he'll include it. So that's important too, because that keeps our congregation, our beloved community in touch. And now, let us begin. As I light the chalice, Greg Shute will read special words for Veterans Day, Memorial Day. They are printed in your order of service, and if you will, follow along with him.
Together. Spirit of light, be with us as we light this flame to remember our veterans of wartime, both fallen and with us today. Teach us how to care for those who have borne arms in our needs. Be with us as we honor those who have spoken out against our wars and called us to a greater vision of humanity. Teach us to value their struggle in our names. Help us to remember that each of those who is called to service is a beloved soul. And be with us as we strive to create a better community that is good and safe and welcoming. Help our souls to heal, that we may know ourselves to be both holy and whole. May this burning chalice remind us of their sacrifices. Amen.
And now Greg and I will be doing a poem in 2 voices. It's a prayer for travelers as we travel on. It's by Angela Herrera. This is a prayer for all travelers, for the ones who start out in beauty, who fall from grace, who step gingerly, looking for the way back, and for those who are born into the margins, who travel from one liminal space to another, crossing boundaries in search of center.
This is a prayer for ones whose births are passing from darkness to darkness, who all their lives are drawn toward the light and keep moving. And for those whose journeys are a winding road that begins and ends in the same place, though only when the journey is completed do they finally know where they are.
And for all the travelers, young and old, aching and joyful, the ones who are here and the ones who are not here, the ones who are like you, and they're all like you, and the ones who are different, for in some ways we each travel alone.
This is a prayer for traveling mercies and sure-footedness, for clear vision, for bread, for your body and spirit, for water, for your safe arrival, and for everyone you meet along the way.
Our opening words this morning was the title of Greg's talk, Vacation or Pilgrimage, that got me to thinking about the adventures life brings us, often in the guise of a vacation, a journey, a pilgrimage. When we start out, we're never sure of what we're going to encounter, what we'll be changed by, what will have stretched your mind in a good way, what will have stretched your nerves, your call, what will have surprised and delighted and annoyed and frightened you and contributed to the journey that will leave us at the end very different than when we started out. It led me to think of some of the world's spiritual leaders who claim their epiphanies came on the journey, on the road, not safely at home on the couch or the cushion. Buddha had to leave the palace to experience human sufferings, putting him on the road to enlightenment. Moses took his people out wandering for 40 years. Jesus wandered where he found and called his disciples and where he sought communion with God. Saul became St. Paul while on the road to Damascus, and modern pilgrims, including Muslims, go to Mecca, and Latter-day Saints go to Utah. For them, the journey is both a physical one and a spiritual one, don't they always reflect each other? Wherever our journeys lead, they'll be bringing new ideas and new people, new ways of thinking, and maybe best of all, ancient truths. I'll leave you with a quote from someone maybe not in the league with Buddha and Jesus and Moses, but in a league of his very own, and that would be Bruce Springsteen. Now I have your attention. He says, "No one you have ever been and no place you have ever gone to leaves you. The new parts of you simply jump in the car and go along for the rest of the ride. The success of your journey and your destination all depend on who's driving, and that would be you." Blessings to each of us as we journey in the days ahead. Our first hymn this morning is in the Teal Book 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. 1008. Rise as you are able. The responsive reading this morning is the insert. It is in your order of service, and it's entitled Walking the Crooked Path by Thomas Rhodes. And let's use it as a responsive reading. I'll say the first two lines, and then why don't we start on the right side of the sanctuary for the first stanza, and then we'll respond on the left. Spirit of life, you who are our source and our ultimate destiny,
lead us this day on your path. So often we are in so much of a hurry, taking the direct route to our goal, not allowing ourselves to be distracted. Sometimes being too direct with one another in all that we seek to do, to be, and to have. We can see that no river takes the direct path to the sea, where trees and bushes sprout crooked limbs, and birds, beasts, and insects meander in search for food, shelter, or meat. We lose so much when we take the direct route. The interstate which bypasses the quaint township, narrow and distant mark, the chance to stop and say hello, and argue, and revisit with love. So lead us on the crooked path, past wandering streams and crooked trees, following our heart's desire, not just duty's demands. For the crooked path also leads us home.
And now's the time for acknowledgments of the heart, a time when we share joys and concerns with each other for celebration or support. I invite you, I'm thinking if I have anything special I wanted to add here, but I invite you to come up and share with us a special joy or concern if you have.
My special joy today is that yesterday was not only a big day of Tea Party, it was my father's 86th birthday. I told him we were going to 86 him.
Good morning. Good morning. I was one of 6 who had a wonderful experience last night at Nancy's home in Perry Point. It was one of those events that's an auction event, if you like. We were gifted with some luscious haute cuisine, followed by an amazing movie. And the 6 of us were Annie, Maggie, Joy, Terry, Diane, and myself. Thank you, Nancy. That was a wonderful, wonderful evening for us all.
And that was part of our auction item, and it was a wonderful time. So I invite you next year to sign up for that one. Is there anyone else who has it?
I do.
I'm a veteran, and I've never emphasized that too much. And I have some news that makes me proud to be a veteran. You see the people, especially the far right, demonstrating in military uniforms. Well, it turns out the veterans are less likely to be radical right or radical left. So I'm a little bit prouder to be a veteran.
An update on Betty Kerr. I'm so happy to say that she is much better, and she has also moved back to Rock of Ages in Rock Hall. But please call, if you do go to visit her, please call first. They do have kind of strict rules, but she loves to sit out on the porch and rock with you.
And today is Betty's birthday.
Right, it is Betty's birthday today. Have you ever, I don't know how old she is.
That doesn't matter.
She's beautiful, whatever age she is.
Maybe we could call her and sing happy birthday to the phone.
Happy birthday.
Of course, it's a joy to be here, and I wanted to share that our son John got married 3 weeks ago, and a lot of you have known John for a long time, and he's doing great. Me and Laura live in Baltimore, and he's doing great. And it was a wonderful time, really beautiful. Wanted to share that.
I don't need a microphone, I can talk loud enough. I have a friend of mine who, okay.
Everybody thinks you can't listen.
Oh, okay. I have a friend of mine who has a friend, her father passed away last night. He was 98 years old, and she's lost, and I said I'd give a blessing to her today and hope that she can find her way with her new life that she's starting, because her father was her whole life. Now, he was 98 years old, I mean, but the matter of the fact is she was with him all that time in his life. And she does need a little blessing to guide her in the right direction. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else? I'm gonna light one last one for Betty. This was our intention, and also for Harry, and also for Sydney, because your birthdays are clustering very close to each other, and just so happens this is a good time to do it, so we celebrate you all.
There we go.
And let's just take a moment now to reflect on any joy or sorrow that is still in our hearts that we haven't given voice to this morning. Blessed be. And now is the time for the offering, but as the baskets are being passed, our own Michael is going to be playing for us a song that will keep the theme going about being on the road on a journey. Enjoy. service leader, do have a mic handy when someone goes to sing. And also, if I had printed out the words, we could have all jumped in. This was kind of last minute, and really kudos to you, get the music and bring it into the service. So we got the idea. That was wonderful. Loved it. And now I invite you into a time for centering. Just relax in your seat. Listen to your breathing. Listen to the words of the Greek poet Cavafy, who wrote this poem, Ithaca, back in 1911. The theme of the poem may be summed up in one phrase: enjoy and honor the journey, every minute of it, as well as the destination that you're traveling to. Some might remember from their school days, Odysseus, and when he left the Trojan War, he took 10 long, painful years to return to his home, the Isle of Ithaca. So like Ulysses, we're all traveling toward our destination, and we're reminded never to lose sight of the journey itself. Says Cavafy, as you set out on your journey, I hope your road is a long one, full of adventure, full of discovery, Lastrygonians, Cyclops, angry Poseidon, God of the sea. Don't be afraid of them. You'll never find things like that on your way as long as you keep your thoughts raised high, as long as a rare excitement stirs your body and your mind. Lastrygonian, Cyclops, wild Poseidon, you won't encounter them unless you bring them along inside your soul, unless your soul sets them up in front of you. I hope your road is a long one. May there be many summer mornings when, with what pleasure, what joy, you enter harbors and see for the first time. May you stop at Phoenician trading stations and buy fine things, mother of pearl, coral, amber, ebony, sensual perfume of every kind, as many sensual perfumes as you can. And may you visit many Egyptian cities and learn and go on learning from their scholars. Keep Ithaca always in your mind. Arriving there is what you're destined for, but don't hurry the journey at all. Better if it lasts for years and years, so you're old by the time you reach the island, wealthy with all you've gained on the way, not expecting Ithaca to make you rich. Ithaca gave you the marvelous journey. Without her, you wouldn't have set out. She has nothing left to give you now. And if you find her poor, Ithaca won't have fooled you. Wise as you will have become, so full of experience, you'll have understood by then what these Ithacas mean. Let us take a moment to think of our own lives and how closely we're paying attention to the journey. Blessed be. Our next song is Love Will Guide Us, as it surely will. It's 131 in your gray hymnal. Rise as you are able. We are fortunate that our friend of many years, Greg, is with us again today. He is Minister Emeritus. It has been Minister Emeritus with the Central Delaware Group, where he served from 2011 to 19. He was our own consulting minister back in the day, and now in retirement, he's enjoying the sweet life with his wife Mary and traveling to European cities where he stays way long. So we welcome you this morning with your energy and your message.
Good morning. Always a pleasure to be here and an honor. And once again, thank you so much for setting the tone for this whole service with all of your readings and your research. And I don't have anything left to say.
I'm not sure your microphone's working.
I assume it's working, yes?
No.
Is it working?
No.
No, it's working.
Sorry. So it's a pleasure to be here and an honor, and thank you. So I was, when Annie wrote me and asked about doing Memorial Day weekend, it immediately crossed my mind that it's the beginning of the summer, and I know that a lot of people have a lot of travel plans. And my wife and I just came back from Florence. We were there for 3 weeks, and a wonderful place to be. And one of the things that we were talking with some of our friends there, and they said they're just inundated with tourists. So many people are moving again after being quarantined for COVID for so long, that people are just antsy and ready to get out and need to get out. And so I was thinking about traveling, and I was realizing that there's a big difference, in my mind anyways, between going on vacation and going on pilgrimage. So I wanted to sort of distinguish between those two ideas and invite you on your travels, whether they're further afield or not that far, to consider being on pilgrimage rather than just being on vacation. The word vacation comes from the same base as vacate, and so it actually does mean going away from. Whereas pilgrimage comes from a term that refers to seeking and looking for. And so when you think of people going on pilgrimage, the road to Santiago, as Annie had said, going on Hajjad to Mecca. I used to take the junior high school group on pilgrimage every other year to Walden Pond, and to explore our routes, go to Emerson's house and Thoreau's cottage there. But with an intention to it that's a little different from going away from, and more about, the focus is more on going towards. So I want to share with you some words of wisdom from an interesting book called The Art of Pilgrimage, which I do not recommend. It's an interesting book and has some good thoughts, but Houston Smith, who is an authority on religions in general, has written the foreword, and he writes, "Travel brings a special kind of wisdom if one is open to it. At home or abroad, things of the world pull us toward them with such gravitational force that if we are not alert our entire lives, we can be sucked into their outwardness. Attentive travel helps us to see this, because the continually changing outward scene helps us to see through the world's pretensions." And I underlined here the word attentive. I mean that sincerely, attentive travel. How many times do we just kind of go through the motions and go someplace and be there without paying really strict and deliberate attention to what we're experiencing? He goes on to write that pilgrimage is the kind of journeying that marks just this move from mindlessness to mindfulness, soulless to soulful travel. The difference might be subtle or dramatic. By definition, it is life-changing. It means being alert to the times when all that's needed is a trip to a remote place to simply lose ourselves, and to the times when what's needed is to journey to a sacred place in all its glorious and fearsome mask to find ourselves. The difference there being that, there again, I think that pilgrimage is seeking for something that we sort of know is missing, and that we're looking for something special to fill that space. If there is a trick to soulful travel, it is learning to see for yourself. To do this takes practice and a belief that it matters. The difference between a pilgrim and a tourist is the intention of their attention and the quality of their curiosity. I know that many of us have a bucket list, and I've encountered a number of people who tell me about working on their bucket list, and they got to check this off and they got to check that off. And I always feel very badly about them because I worry that they haven't really experienced whatever it was that was on their bucket list because they were so wrapped up in the notion of having been there and being able to check it off their list. And I think that's a real temptation for a lot of us a lot of times, to not really pay attention to what it is that has drawn us there. I'm not suggesting that we need to go to sacred places, religious places. We can find those special places by accident. We can find places that change our lives purely by chance, as long as we pay attention and are intent on experiencing. I'm not going to bore you all with another South Africa story, because you all know that I went there purely by accident in 2002 and have been back 23 times since. And to say that it changed my life is to put it mildly. But it was the experience and the awareness of how it was changing my life and the willingness to be changed by that experience, rather than just being able to say, oh, I've been to South Africa. But I discovered recently there's another place in my life that has become very, very important to me. A number of years ago, we started going to the Outer Banks in North Carolina. I know many of you have been to the Outer Banks in North Carolina, gorgeous place. We went, we rented one of those big mansions on the beach, a big, I've forgotten, 27 bedrooms or something, And the kids came, and so we had a family on the beach. And that's what it was. It was a family excursion to the beach. We went in September, which is, well, two reasons. It's nicer because a lot of places are closed and there aren't nearly as many people. And it's also the only time that I can afford to go there. But we had an awesome time, but we now go back every year because I've discovered that the phrase that came to my mind when I was thinking about this the other day, it was from the 23rd Psalm, "It restoreth my soul." There is something about sitting there on the deck with my cup of coffee, waiting for the sun to come up. And then when it just peaks over the top there, and you're invited to a whole new day. And to take that moment to consider the day, the gift of another whole day, and who I'm going to be and what I'm going to do with that day. Not to just get up at some later time and realize, oh, I can go down and I can do this, but to really be contemplative and intentional about addressing the experience and the opportunity that is going to come to me in that day. So the Outer Banks has become a place of pilgrimage for me anyways, a place where I can go to restore my soul, to find that peace, that calmness, that can make me a better person. I work hard on patience. I'm not a very patient person. Sorry. That's my wife. She can attest to that. So I discovered that what I need to do is to stop and think. And so sometimes when I'm feeling really impatient, I kind of conjure in my mind that whole vision of sitting on the deck and listening to the waves and waiting for the sunrise, or even just walking on the beach a little later on, and find that sort of place in my heart, which I brought home with me, and find that place of peace and quiet and calmness and balance. I found it interesting because a week ago, I was on the phone with Verizon for an hour and a half, and I really did. I probably 15 or 20 minutes into it, I really was getting irritated. I was raising my voice. I was kind of losing it, and all of a sudden I realized that this isn't who I want to be and what I want to do, and how can I? And I conjured up that picture in my mind. I went to my happy place. I went to that pilgrimage place where I find the peace and quiet. And I was able to bring it in, and I was partially successful. But myself and the person on the other, we eventually got to the end of it, and it all came, and it worked out. And so I realized that the key to pilgrimage is not just being attentive and intentional on your journey, but to be able to bring it home with you again, to be able to bring it back so that it isn't just a passing fancy, just a passing experience, just a restoring while I'm there, but that it can have an impact and an influence on who I continue to be later. So the notion of going on pilgrimage then, I know that you all do a water communion in the fall, right? And in 25 years in ministry, one of the things that I always found rather irritating, I will admit to you, well, there were a whole bunch of things, but one of the things is people that come to the water communion and it's a one-upmanship. You ever experienced that? No. Well, you guys are good here then, all right. But it's a matter of who went furthest, went to the most exotic place, spent the most amount of money or whatever. And I often wonder the purpose of the water communion. So I've always asked people, when you come up with your water, tell us about the special place you went. And it can be Grandma's house. I love that. That's a wonderful place to go. It's a sacred and a special place. But when you share the water, tell us why it's special. And in coming back from that place, what is the blessing that you have brought with you to bring to this community, to UUCR? What is the blessing from your special or sacred place that you bring to share in your water communion? So I may not be here in the fall, but I invite you to think about that when you're traveling this summer, next fall, next winter, whenever you go anywheres, and you collect some water to bring back, whether you share it here or just to your house. Think about what it is that you're bringing back with you. How has it changed your life? How can it change your life? Who are you now that you have gone there, experienced that, and brought it back with you? So that what is your wish and your blessing that you're going to share with your family and your friends and your community? I invite you to think about that. Because I think that when you go on travel like that, with that kind of intention and awareness, it makes it richer. It makes it more fulfilling. It makes it more transforming. It makes it transcendental. It makes it something more than just being on vacation. Go on pilgrimage. So I would like to invite your thoughts on that. If you have One of the things that might be a way to start this out is if you've been someplace where you've had this experience and been able to bring it back with you, that might be one thing. Other thoughts about pilgrimage?
First, I want to thank you for using that label, because I've been searching for the distinction between vacation, escape, and going on a meaningful journey for years, and I couldn't find the right word, the mot juste. But I want to share with you that I don't normally go on Facebook, but just a couple days ago I went on, and my cousin Geraldine Cavallero, who I grew up with, about my age, had posted something about her current vacation with her husband in Europe someplace, and the post was 10 cities in 15 days. And it reminded me of an experience I had about 10 years ago in the south of France. And my partner at the time and I were renting a house in a little village and going off on excursions every day. And every day I would start by going down to the coffee plaza. And I sat down and would have my coffee and pastis. And there was a man there who seemed to be a local, and he was there every day about the same time. And we started talking, and he was a Belgian who owned a farm there. And he after getting comfortable with me, he finally asked me, he said, "What is it about you Americans that you think your vacation is worthwhile when you do exactly this? You visit 10 countries or 10 cities in 15 days. He says, "You don't learn anything. You don't learn anything. There's no depth to it. There's no..." And so since that time, my vacations, if and when I have them, I've gone mostly by myself to places that speak to me, and that are generally very old, because I always thought that civilizations that have been around for 1,000 years, 2,000 years, have a lot more to tell me than visiting, some Central Florida. But thank you again.
I particularly like what you said about actually taking the time to stop and talk to a local. I think a lot of times we're scurrying around so much. As I said, we just came back from Florence, and we love to go down to the coffee shop and have cappuccino, and so we went around to this other place we hadn't been before, and the waiter was so gruff and just, walking out. Yeah. Well, the third day that we went, he brought out our coffees because he knew what she wanted and I was going to have. By the 10th day we were there, he was talking with us. I often wonder what happened when the day we didn't show up anymore. But I mean, it's how do you experience something deeper than just sort of being there? Last year we had some friends who joined us from the United States while we were there. And when we got back, one of the women said to us, she really gets why we go to Florence now. She said, "You don't go there to visit there, you go to be there." And I thought that was astute, and that was a compliment. We go there to be, and by the way, we already booked next year. Sorry.
Yes, I like this idea of adventures and travel. And my wife and I would always go overseas adventure travel. 16 people, out of the way hotels, place you can take a big group. We would also have a meal in someone's home. And what I always do in my own personal interest is that I was raised on a farm. Every country I go to, I try to find out about the farming, because it enlarges an idea. It's not just being there. And we're doing this. We were in India, and asked a taxi driver to take us to a farm. He took us to his parents' place. And it was very nice, they had straw for the cows and so forth in the pot. It was a very nice visit. And they served us tea. I thought tea would have been heated and killed out bacteria. No, we both got a nice culture of bacteria and we didn't care for it. But it still was worth an adventure.
Well, the Outer Banks. I can resonate with that totally. Dick and I went for 20 years. And when you were, just before you said it restoreth your soul, I was thinking, that's my place of renewal. Yeah, and I can also pull that. For me, it's not on the deck, it's down on the beach in a chair with an umbrella and a hat and all covered up from the sun, but listening to the waves and watching the shorebirds. And it's just a magical place that, yes, I can also pull back and go there when I need to. Yeah. Where'd you go in the end?
Corolla.
Those of you that know me know I've been away for a while, and I think we all have sort of places that we think we belong. Sort of get surprised, you show up and you think, oh, I belong here more than where I'm normally. And the south of France is that for me. And this time I was there for 3 months, and the two things, when Greg says I don't go to see something, I go to be there, was the rhythm of a community that's organized a little differently. And I kept trying to go, why does this work for me? This is weird. Why does this work better than, to be honest, Chestertown, where I don't even live? I live up in Earlville, and I figured out two things. One is the car. The places I am in there are not organized around a car. So you are doing things in the presence with other people, not in your individual cars. And that sounds sort of boring, but it's really profound if you think how much of our time is alone in a car, just the way our society developed. And the second is that I know all of my merchants when I'm there. I know the person in the market, I know the butcher, they are small merchants, they know where their products come from, they can talk to you about them. And something about us divorcing ourselves from where our food and drink comes from so that it can be cheaper is not so healthy for us.
Maybe we have time for one more.
One of the places,
I have to put my 2 cents in. I started out when I was younger hitchhiking across the country a couple of times, and I think I met quite a few lost souls out there. But that was educational for my youth. When my daughter started traveling, I started following her. She's my daughter, and she was adventurous, and she wanted to go places, so I figured I'd try doing that. So we went to Spain, but I ended up going to El Salvador in 2003, and it was probably a similar experience as you had in Africa, because I kept going back and still go back. And it was very rewarding. It has been very rewarding. So.
I was just going to mention that one of the places that we go in Florence is St. Mark's Anglican Church. It's a older, not ancient, but it's an older church, and it's high church, Episcopal Anglican. And they do opera there. So we went to 2 shows while we were there, and awesome. Just wonderful, just, they're right in front of you, just in the church. And the second, we've been several times, but the second time we were there this time, they sat us down next to the priest. the Anglican priest, introduce us. And I still think it was intentional. I think they did it on purpose. And so we chatted, we had this conversation before the show and then after the show a little bit. Really, really nice guy. And yeah, oh my, yeah, really nice guy. And this was a Saturday night, so he invited us to church on Sunday. So I dressed fairly casual. I says, okay if I come? I had shorts on. I think I'd be okay if I come? And he says, sure. So we went to an Anglican service on Sunday morning that I really didn't care for. But the choir was awesome. The acoustics were incredible. And it was definitely a spiritual place, an experience. The readings from the Bible were a little off-putting, but the minister was delightful, and all the people were very, very, very nice people. So that was a surprise, and I realized that sometimes I make assumptions about people and places, and I ought not to.
Before we go on, I've been watching the RE kids go down to the Memorial Grove, and if you haven't taken a trip down there, a 3 or 4 minute walk down our new pathway in the sunshine, you go through the shade, all kinds of plants and trees. You're down there where the bricks are of past memorial, past loved ones who we put a brick to memorialize them. And then there's a bench down there that was given to us by one of our congregants. And I had a book, and I sat there with the birds and everything, and I thought, I don't think many of us even know that it's there, or go down just by ourselves. It doesn't have to be an activity or a special service. It's a beautiful place. It can be a little mini vacation, a pilgrimage.
Yes.
Okay. Closing words. As we leave service this morning and perhaps scatter in many directions celebrating summer, let us remember to cup our hands and hold the peace. Even when the sirens begin, even when sorrow calls out old and gnarled, even when words grow fangs and rend. Cupped hands gently open, supporting peace like the golden hollow of our Tibetan bowl, like the acres of golden farmlands that surround us, like the Chesapeake and the Chester defining this special place we call home. Take this peace with you for the journey ahead. And now I'll extinguish the chalice. The words are in the order of service. We extinguish this flame with the light of truth, the warmth of community, the fire of forgiveness. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again. safe travels to you all. We'll see many of you right here next Sunday, and do sign up on the board. Have a wonderful week.